There is a sentence hidden in the opening credits of Gravity Falls. It has been there since June 15, 2012, 4 years before the show ended, and 2 years before its biggest twist was finally revealed on screen. It is encoded in a Caesar cipher, 3 letters back, and it reads, "Stan is not what he seems." The central mystery of the entire series, sitting in plain sight from the first 60 seconds, and almost nobody saw it. Tonight we are going through all of it. Every cipher, every cover-up, every hidden message baked into the credits and the backgrounds and the books and the merchandise, every piece of foreshadowing planted before audiences even knew there was something to look for, and every secret that was hidden not just inside the show but in the real world, in buried treasure in the Oregon wilderness, in a 13-day global scavenger hunt that crossed 3 countries. So get comfortable, turn the lights down, we will be here a while, and if you have not subscribed to Pine Hat yet, it really does help us keep making these. To understand why Gravity Falls is built the way it is, with hidden layers underneath hidden layers, with a cryptogram in every episode, and a lie embedded in the main character's name from day one, you have to understand where it came from. And where it came from is deeply personal. Alex Hirsch was born on June 18, 1985 in Piedmont, California. He had a twin sister named Ariel. Between the ages of 9 and 13, the two of them spent summers with their great-aunt Lois at her cabin in the woods, and those summers were the direct inspiration for everything Gravity Falls became. The Mystery Shack, the supernatural weirdness of a small wooded town, the overwhelming feeling of a summer that is magical and finite at the same time, the sense that childhood itself is a mystery you cannot solve before it ends. All of that comes directly from Hirsch's own memory of those years. The show also owes something to Oregon specifically. Hirsch had grown up making family road trips up the California and Oregon coast, and he had encountered those peculiar roadside attractions that dot the Pacific Northwest, places like the Oregon Vortex near Gold Hill, a real roadside stop that bills itself as a paranormal phenomenon, a mystery spot where balls roll uphill and people appear to change height depending on where they stand. The whole premise of the Mystery Shack, Stan's tourist trap built on top of genuine supernatural secrets, draws from that tradition of roadside Americana where the line between genuine weirdness and deliberate hokum is always blurry. Even a sign for a town called Boring, Oregon, apparently worked its way into Hirsch's imagination as he drove past it. But Gravity Falls as you know it almost did not happen. The earliest version of the show was a completely different concept. The lead character was not a 12-year-old boy at all, but a young man in his 20s, roughly college age, and he had moved to a strange town after a bad breakup, investigating its weirdness as a kind of personal escape. The supporting world around him was also notably different from what ended up on screen. There was a secret society of sturgeon-worshipping old men. There was a girl with telekinetic powers. There was a cursed typewriter. There was a magical owl. The show had a slightly more deadpan, adult comedic register and a single adult protagonist at the center. That version was completely scrapped. Hirsch rebuilt the concept from scratch around 2 children, twins, which let him draw directly from his own experience as a twin, spending summers in a strange place. The choice to make the leads 12 years old rather than 20-something was also a practical storytelling decision. A kid who stumbles onto supernatural mysteries is automatically more vulnerable, more in over his head, more interesting to watch than an adult who could, in theory, just leave. And twin siblings carry a particular emotional charge. 2 people who started as one, who are deeply bonded and deeply different, who are each other's mirrors and each other's constant companions in a world that neither of them entirely understands. Hirsch knew that dynamic from the inside. Once the concept shifted to children, casting became everything. Jason Ritter was cast as Dipper, the cautious, curious, overthinking twin. Kristen Schaal came in as Mabel, and Hirsch has been remarkably clear about how much of the show lived or died on that casting choice. He has said that if they had not gotten Kristen Schaal, he probably would have quit. That is a significant statement. Mabel is the emotional heart of the show, the counterweight to Dipper's anxiety-driven mystery obsession, and Schaal brought a quality to the character that elevated every scene she was in. Hirsch himself voiced Grunkle, Stan, and Soos, which meant the creative lead of the show was also performing 2 of its most central characters, a choice that gave those characters an unusual coherence and warmth. Justin Roiland, who would later co-create Rick and Morty, voiced Blendon Blandon. J.K. Simmons joined in Season 2 to play Ford Pines, and the weight he brought to that role, the weariness and the obsession and the grief, made the Stan and Ford relationship land with the emotional force it needed. There is an interesting detail about Seuss that almost made it to screen differently. Seuss's full name is Jesus Alzamirano Ramirez, and the original plan was for the show to address him as Jesus rather than just Seuss. Disney raised concerns about the name, specifically about potential complaints, and so Seuss became Seuss, the nickname that stuck. This is one of those small compromises that sounds minor, but actually shaped a character's identity. Seuss as a name has a warmth and a cartoonish quality that suits him perfectly. The full name would have been a different register entirely. The pilot existed before the show was greenlit, and it differs from what aired in several notable ways. Dipper in the pilot had no vest, wore different shoes, and was already wearing the pine tree hat from his very first scene, rather than finding it as a discovered object. Stan in the pilot had 4 fingers, the standard cartoon convention, rather than the 5 he has in the show. Mabel wore different clothes. The visual language of the pilot is rougher, the character design slightly less refined, and the particular rhythm of the show, that combination of comedy and genuine mystery and emotional warmth, had not yet fully locked in. The greenlit series tightened all of that considerably. Gravity Falls premiered on June 15, 2012 on Disney Channel, and the show's primary home through its run became Disney XD. Season 1 ran from that premiere date through August 2, 2013, across 20 episodes. There was then a gap before Season 2 began, premiering on August 1, 2014 on Disney Channel and August 4 on Disney XD, running through the series finale on February 15, 2016. 2 seasons, 40 episodes, and a run that lasted just under 4 years from premiere to finale. Hirsch announced on November 20, 2015, via Tumblr, that the show would end after 2 more episodes, and he was explicit that this was entirely his decision. Disney had not canceled the series. Hirsch had always intended Gravity Falls to be a finite story, about one epic summer, and when the story was done, he ended it. That discipline, the willingness to stop rather than stretch, is part of what makes the show feel the way it does. Complete and deliberate and clean at the edges. And from the very first episode, the secrets had already begun. This is the part that still gets me, even after knowing the show inside and out. The idea that a writer would sit down in the very first episode and encode the answer to the central mystery in the opening credits, knowing that almost nobody would see it, knowing it might take years for anyone to find it, knowing the show might even be canceled before the payoff was ever delivered. That kind of structural commitment to a hidden layer is rare in any medium. In American animated television, it is nearly unheard of. Hirsch has spoken about staying up until 3 in the morning, inserting hidden details into episodes, just for the pleasure of it, initially expecting only 2 or 3 people would ever notice them. He was not building the cipher system for attention. He was building it because he thought secrets were worth hiding, even if almost nobody found them. The cipher system in Gravity Falls operates on 2 levels, what you see on screen and what you hear at the end of the theme song. The theme song ends with a reversed whisper, played backwards, that functions as a key to the current encryption method. In the earliest episodes of Season 1, if you played that whisper backwards, you heard the phrase, 3 letters back, which tells you exactly how to decode the cryptograms in the credits. The cipher in use for episodes 1 through roughly 6 of Season 1 is a Caesar cipher, one of the oldest encryption methods in recorded history, named after Julius Caesar, who reportedly used it in his military correspondence. You take each letter of the encoded message and shift it 3 positions back in the alphabet. So D becomes A, E becomes B, F becomes C, and so on. Simple, elegant, completely invisible to anyone who does not already know to look for it. The cryptogram in the closing credits of the very first episode, Tourist Trapped, decodes to a simple welcome. Welcome to Gravity Falls. But the real payload is already embedded in the opening sequence. A single frame flashes during the opening credits. A cryptogram that reads VWDQ, LVQ, RWZKDW, CH, VHHPV. Apply the Caesar cipher, shift 3 letters back, and you get Stan is not what he seems, the show's central mystery, its biggest secret. Right there, in the first 60 seconds of the very first episode, in a cipher whose key is whispered backwards at the end of the theme song. If you had the patience to record the theme song, reverse the audio, hear the phrase 3 letters back, apply that to the flashing frame in the opening, you would have solved the show's central mystery in the first week it aired, in 2012. 4 years before the finale. The reason almost nobody did this is a function of how encrypted things work. The cipher is visible only if you know to look for it, and you only know to look for it if you hear the reversed whisper, and you only hear the reversed whisper if you think to play the audio backwards. Most viewers do not pause on a single frame during opening credits. Most viewers do not reverse their audio. The hide is perfect precisely because it exploits the gap between what is there and what most people think to check. Around the 7th episode of Season 1, Double Dipper, the reversed whisper changed. Instead of 3 letters back, it now said switch A with Z. The cipher system had rotated to @bash, a different classical cipher in which the alphabet is mirrored. A becomes Z, B becomes Y, C becomes X. Letters at one end of the alphabet become their counterparts at the other end. Every episode from Double Dipper through roughly episode 13 used this system, and the fans who had been decoding the credits since episode 1 had to recalibrate. Some of them figured it out immediately. Others were briefly lost until they heard the whisper change. Then, around episode 14, the whisper changed again, this time to 26 letters, pointing to the A1Z26 cipher, in which numbers stand directly in for letters. 1 equals A, 2 equals B, all the way through 26 equals Z. No letter shifting, no mirroring, just a direct numerical substitution. The Season 1 finale, Gideon Rises, the 20th episode, brought all 3 of these methods together in a single combined cipher. A1Z26 decoded first, then @bash applied to the result, then Caesar applied to that, in sequence. The decoded message at the end of the Season 1 finale is, "Search for the blind eye." It points directly to a major Season 2 episode, Society of the Blind Eye, which would air more than a year later and begin uncovering the deeper secrets around the portal beneath the Mystery Shack. The finale was leaving a map to the next phase of the mystery, in code, in the credits. This is a good point to stop and note how the fan community responded to all of this, because the community response became part of the show's story. By mid-Season 1, a dedicated group of viewers had organized around decoding Gravity Falls cryptograms. They shared methods on forums and subreddits and fan wikis. They compared notes on what each episode's credits message said and what it might mean. Hirsch later acknowledged that he had expected a tiny audience of a few dedicated cryptographers to find these things. What he got instead was a substantial, coordinated fan effort that was solving every episode's credit message within hours of broadcast. The secrets were still secrets, technically, but they were community secrets, shared and solved together in real time. That collective decoding culture became one of the defining characteristics of the Gravity Falls fandom. And then Season 2 began, and the cipher system escalated dramatically. Season 2 episodes use a Vigenere cipher, a significantly more complex encryption method that requires not just a fixed shift or substitution rule, but a keyword. Without the keyword, the cipher is effectively unbreakable with any simple approach. The keywords for each Season 2 episode are not printed in the credits or whispered at the end of the theme song. They are hidden somewhere within the episode itself. The reversed whisper at the start of Season 2 changes to key Vigenere, telling you what kind of cipher you are dealing with, but finding the actual key for each episode means watching closely. The Season 2 premiere Scarioak has the keyword whittle, Gideon's baby talk word for his little bear, visible on the wall of his prison cell if you look at the background carefully. The second Season 2 episode, Into the Bunker, uses the keyword shifter, visible on a barrel in the bunker where the shapeshifter is imprisoned. The fact that the keyword for each episode is thematically related to the episode's content is an elegant touch, a small joke from the writers that rewards anyone paying close enough attention. The keywords do not jump out. They sit in background details, in text that most viewers' eyes slide past without registering, because the brain prioritizes the action happening in the foreground. One of the most layered moments in the entire cipher history of the show is a scene in the Season 2 episode, Sock Opera, in which a background piece of paper in Dipper's room contains encoded text. When decoded using the old Caesar cipher from Season 1, that text reveals the Vigenere keywords for several surrounding Season 2 episodes, including whittle, shifter, whatevs, and barrow. The show put an Easter egg in one episode that decodes into the keys needed to decode other episodes. A cipher within a cipher, pointing outward to other hidden messages. When I say the show is built in layers, this is what I mean. It is not just that there are secrets, it is that the secrets are connected to each other, cross-referenced, nested, arranged into a system that rewards the people willing to go deep enough. The Vigenere system asked a lot of the writers and the production team. Every Season 2 episode had to be designed with a keyword in mind, and that keyword had to be hidden somewhere in the episode's background in a way that was visible but not obvious, findable by a dedicated viewer, but not announced to a casual one. The keyword then had to be used to encode a credit message that would be relevant to the episode's content or the show's broader mythology. That is an extraordinary amount of additional creative labor layered on top of the standard work of making an animated series, writing, storyboarding, animating, voice recording, scoring, all of the visible production pipeline. The cipher system is invisible work, additional craft that most viewers will never register, maintained across 20 episodes of a season because the writers had decided it was worth maintaining. That kind of commitment to a secondary layer of meaning, one that only a fraction of your audience will ever access, is unusual in any creative field. It is the kind of thing you do because you love it, not because it improves your ratings. A few of the decoded Season 2 credit messages deserve attention on their own terms, separate from what they tell us about the plot. The end of the sock opera credits contains a poem, spoken in Bill Cipher's voice, that decodes to, "No puppet strings can hold me down, so patiently I watch this town. Abnormal soon will be the norm, enjoy the calm before the storm." The show broadcast that warning directly from the villain, in code, months before Weirdmageddon. The Season 2 episode, Not What He Seems, has a credits message that decodes to, "He is lying. Someone you know is hiding the truth." The theme song whisper for that particular episode also changes, replaced by the phrase, "Not what he seems," a direct callback to the very first hidden message from 2 years earlier, looping back around to close the circle. And the episode, Dipper and Mabel versus the Future, has a credits message that reads simply, "Did you miss me?" encoded with the keyword Blue Book and delivered in Bill's voice, a taunt and a reminder that the endgame is coming. The series finale, Weirdmageddon 3, ends with a final cryptogram poem decoded through the combined cipher, faded pictures bleached by sun. The tale's told, the summer's done. In memories the pines still play. On a sunny summer's day, and the theme song whisper for the final episode, in place of any cipher instruction, says simply, "Goodbye Gravity Falls." I am not going to pretend that one is emotionally neutral, because it is not. Hearing that, knowing it is the last episode, knowing you are watching the actual end of the thing, is something else entirely. All of that is the cipher system. 2 full seasons of encrypted messages, a progression from simple classical ciphers to increasingly complex layered systems, keywords hidden in backgrounds, poems planted in credits, a reversed whisper in the theme song that tells you how to decode everything if you know to listen for it. But the cipher system is the public-facing layer of the show's secrets. The deeper cover-up, the one that Hirsch actually deployed real-world disinformation to protect, was the mystery of who Stan Pines actually was. The first hint is in the second episode. In The Legend of the Gobblewonker, Season 1, Episode 2, Stan's car has a license plate that reads Stan Limble. Read that out, Stanley Mobile. Throughout Season 1, Stan introduces himself as Stanford, and Dipper and Mabel call him that, and the audience accepts it because we have no reason to doubt him. But his car's license plate, sitting in frame, says Stanley. His name is not Stanford, his name is Stanley. That detail was planted in Episode 2 of a series whose central mystery would not be resolved until Season 2, Episode 12. For anyone paying attention to license plates, which is to say essentially nobody on a first watch, the twin reveal was already there. The abandoned room in the episode Carpet Diem contains a pair of square glasses that Stan quickly and nervously pockets. They are Ford's glasses. Stan is hiding them. He pockets them fast, the scene moves on, and most viewers never register what they just saw. But on a rewatch, knowing what you know, the moment is extraordinary. Stan is standing in his twin brother's old room, in the building that was his twin brother's research lab, pocketing his twin brother's glasses so nobody finds them. And his body language in that moment is the body language of a man carrying a secret so heavy it has reshaped his entire life. The acting is right there in the animation. Hirsch confirmed later that all of this was intentional from the very beginning. In Season 1, Episode 19, Dreamscaperers, Gideon orders Bill Cipher to enter the mind of Stanford Pines, which is the name Stan has been using. Bill hesitates. He looks confused for just a moment. The reason, which the audience does not know yet, is that the real Stanford Pines is trapped in an interdimensional portal beneath the Mystery Shack, and the man in town calling himself Stanford is actually his twin brother Stanley. Bill would have known this. Bill knows everything. He already knows there is a Stanley in town, and that the person being called Stanford is not who everyone thinks he is. That moment of hesitation is Bill Cipher, the show's omniscient supernatural villain, briefly registering the gap between the name he has been given and the person he can actually find. It is one of the most quietly brilliant pieces of retroactive foreshadowing I have come across in any animated series. The six-fingered hand that appears on the cover of every journal from episode 1 onward is another piece of the same puzzle. Ford Pines has polydactyly, 6 fingers on each hand, and that 6-finger hand is stamped on every journal cover that appears in season 1. The audience sees it and registers it as a stylistic choice, a visual marker that makes the journals look strange and old and important. What they are actually seeing is the creator's identity, visible from the first episode, pointing to the person who wrote the journals before they are ever named or shown on screen. The journals belong to Ford. Ford has 6 fingers. The 6-finger hand is there in episode 1. The answer to who wrote the journals was literally on the cover the whole time. There is also a newspaper clipping that appears in the show, hinting that a Stan Pines died, suggesting that the man everyone calls Stan or Stanford might be using a dead man's identity, or at least an identity that does not fully belong to him. Combined with the license plate, the glasses, the cipher message in the opening credits, the hesitation from Bill, and the 6-fingered journals, the show was leaving a consistent trail of breadcrumbs about the true nature of Grunkle Stan. The trail was subtle enough that most viewers missed it. It was unambiguous enough that, in retrospect, the clues are overwhelming. Fans were not entirely blind to this. By the middle of season 1, a significant portion of the Gravity Falls fan community had correctly theorized that Stan had a twin brother who had written the journals. The theory was coherent, the evidence supported it, and people were discussing it openly. Alex Hirsch knew this, and he found it alarming. Not because he was bothered by fan engagement, but because the twin reveal was the emotional and narrative heart of the entire second season, and having it spoiled 18 months before it aired would fundamentally change the experience for everyone. So he did something that, in animation history, is genuinely unusual. He deployed disinformation. On April 9, 2013, during season 1's original broadcast run, a post appeared on the online image board sometimes called 4chan, in the board dedicated to comics and cartoons. The post claimed to be from someone who had secretly taken photographs while on a tour of Disney's television animation offices. The photographs appeared to show internal production art depicting a younger Fiddleford McGucket writing in a journal. The implication was that McGucket, the eccentric, apparently demented old hermit who appeared occasionally in season 1 as a comic relief figure, was actually the true author of the journals, the mysterious figure whose identity the show had been building toward. The post spread rapidly through the fandom. A significant portion of the Gravity Falls community, people who had been doing genuine cryptographic detective work for months, shifted their focus. The twin theory began to look less likely. If McGucket was the author, then all those clues about Stanley versus Stanford were perhaps coincidences or red herrings, not a single cohesive secret. The hoax worked. Alex Hirsch, the show's creator, had gone personally onto the internet under the guise of an anonymous leak and fed his own audience deliberate misinformation to protect a plot twist. He admitted all of this publicly. At the 2014 Creative Talent Network Expo, during the Gravity Falls panel, Hirsch confirmed that he had been behind the post, that it was a deliberate hoax, and that the whole operation had been designed to protect the twin reveal. This is one of the most aggressively hands-on creator cover-ups in animation history, and I think it deserves more recognition than it gets. Most showrunners deal with leaks passively, either through NDAs and embargo agreements, or by simply declining to comment on theories. Hirsch actively created a false lead and distributed it to his own audience. That takes a specific kind of commitment to the bit, and also a specific kind of respect for the audience. Paradoxically, he wanted the reveal to land. He did what it took. Season 2 confirmed that McGucket was not the author of the journals, but rather Ford's research assistant, a brilliant man who had helped build the portal and then had his memories systematically erased by the Society of the Blind Eye after what he had seen drove him to the edge of sanity. McGucket, it turned out, was a tragic figure, not a villain and not the author, but someone who had been broken by proximity to the same secrets the show was built on. The episode Society of the Blind Eye aired on October 27, 2014, and it formally closed the door on the McGucket as author theory, though many fans had already left it behind. The full twin reveal came in A Tale of Two Stans, Season 2, Episode 12. The episode had been positioned as a major event, and it delivered. For the first time, the show put Stan and Ford in the same room, gave them a full backstory, and explained the mechanism behind everything the audience had been puzzling over. Stan's real name was Stanley. Ford had 6 fingers and had built the portal and written the journals. They had been estranged for 30 years after a painful fight in their youth, and Stan had spent those 30 years rebuilding the broken portal in secret, in a hidden room beneath the Mystery Shack, desperately trying to bring his brother back from the dimension he had fallen into. Everything the audience thought they understood about the show's central location, the Mystery Shack itself, was reframed. It was not a tourist trap with a secret portal in the basement. It was a family story. It was one brother spending 3 decades, alone, rebuilding a machine that might kill him because he could not live with what had happened between them. A Tale of Two Stans became Disney XD's highest-rated telecast ever at the time of its broadcast, drawing 1.91 million viewers. That number would later be surpassed by the series finale itself, but the rating reflects something real about the episode's impact. People knew this one mattered. The payoff landed. Now, through all of that, through the entire Season 1 arc of the twin mystery, there was another secret running in parallel. A secret about a character who was technically not a character yet, who had not been introduced and had not spoken a line, but who was already everywhere in the show if you knew how to look. Bill Cipher was present in Gravity Falls from the very first episode, months before he was named or spoke a single word. The easiest place to find him is the end of the opening credits sequence. The Bill Cipher Zodiac wheel, the circular arrangement of 10 symbols that will eventually become central to the show's mythology, flashes at the very end of the opening for a fraction of a second. It is there in Episode 1. You can pause on it. It is too fast to register in normal viewing, but it is there, the same symbol that will later appear in the finale, as the mechanism that could have stopped Weirdmageddon if the group had managed to hold the circle together. First episode, opening credits. He is also in the interior of the Mystery Shack. There is a stained glass window in the attic that casts a triangular reflective pattern on the wall, shaped like Bill's eye and body, visible in certain lighting conditions in early episodes. He is on the rug in the Mystery Shack, worked into the decorative pattern. He appears on the back of a playing card in Irrational Treasure, Season 1, Episode 8, sitting in a scene as a piece of background decor before he has any established identity in the story. The show was hiding him in plain sight, integrating his image into the setting as if he were simply part of the visual texture of the town, which, in a deep sense, he is. His formal introduction came in Dreamscaperers, Season 1, Episode 19, which aired on July 12, 2013, drawing around 2.7 million viewers, the highest number the show had reached to that point. Before that episode, Bill had no dialogue, no name on screen, no storyline. He was a recurring image. In Dreamscaperers, he speaks for the first time, he enters the story as a character, and he is immediately and completely terrifying in a way that the show's earlier monsters had not been. The gnomes are comic. Gideon is menacing but comprehensible. Bill is something else, cheerful and ancient and wrong, in a way that is hard to articulate but impossible to miss. The yellow triangle with the eye and the top hat and the bow tie radiates a kind of wrongness that the character design alone cannot explain. The voice performance is part of it. The cadence is part of it. The way he seems delighted by things that should not delight anyone is part of it. Alex Hirsch has confirmed that Bill was designed by taking the Eye of Providence, the pyramid and eye symbol that appears on the back of the United States $1 bill, and adding a top hat and a bow tie. He is named after the dollar bill, the most visible piece of symbolic art in American daily life, a symbol that has been the focus of conspiracy theories about secret societies and hidden power for decades, became the basis for the show's central villain. The choice is perfect, partly because it is funny and partly because it is genuinely unsettling. Something about making that particular image into a character with a voice and a personality and a goal makes the symbol feel more threatening, not less. Hirsch has also said that Bill was originally conceived as a one-shot villain for Dreamscaperers. He appeared in that episode, he served his narrative function, and there was no firm plan to bring him back as a recurring antagonist. The fandom changed that. The response to Bill's introduction was immediate and intense, and as the show developed and Hirsch began building toward the larger mythology of the portal and the journals and the Stan twin reveal, Bill became the figure who connected all of those threads. He had manipulated Ford. He had been waiting for decades for the portal to open. He had been watching the town from a position that predated everything the audience had seen. The one-shot character became the final boss. One of the most extraordinary freeze-frame moments in any animated series comes in Dreamscapers, when Bill delivers the line, "I know lots of things," and for a fraction of a second, his form flashes through a rapid series of images. If you pause on it, frame by frame, you can identify among other things an image of JFK, UFOs, Mayan symbols, a moon landing, a skull with a cigarette, Stonehenge, the pyramids, Stan's secret vending machine door, the Sasquatch from the opening, crop circles, a secret room, a Nathaniel Northwest statue, clocks, an abandoned warehouse, and a maximum security prison. The images are not random. They represent the breadth of Bill's knowledge and, in many cases, specific things that will become relevant later in the story. The vending machine door is the entrance to the portal. Stan's own secrets are in there, glimpsed in the flash of Bill's omniscience, a monster who knows everything and does not hide the fact. Bill Cipher's name tag appears in Dreamscapers in encoded text. Decoded, it reads, "Liar, monster, snappy dresser." The snappy dresser part is the joke, and it is a good one. The liar and monster parts are also accurate, and they are right there in the episode if you know the cipher. Hidden beneath the floorboards of the Mystery Shack in the Season 1 finale, Gideon Rises, there is text carved into a pipe that reads, "Ilu luv the, zdwfkl kluj." Apply the Caesar cipher, 3 letters back, and you get, Bill is watching. Bill's presence is in the architecture of the building. He has been watching from within the physical fabric of the Mystery Shack, and this is not a metaphor. The text is literally in the structure. The Bill Cipher Zodiac wheel deserves a longer look, because the story of how that symbol came to exist is one of the most unexpected behind-the-scenes stories in the show's production. The Zodiac contains 10 symbols arranged in a circle, each one representing a specific character who, when gathered and linked in that circle, could theoretically defeat Bill. The symbols are a question mark for Seuss, whose shirt always shows a question mark, an ice bag for Wendy, because she stays cool under pressure, a crescent and fez shape for Stan, a pine tree for Dipper, from his hat, a pentagram with an eye for Gideon, a 6-fingered hand for Ford, a shooting star for Mabel, a stitched heart for Robbie, a llama for Pacifica, and a pair of glasses for the 10th symbol. The way Hirsch has described creating the Zodiac is roughly like this. He was in a rushed production meeting with an artist. They needed to design the symbol quickly, and the symbols they chose were essentially random images from the first 7 or so episodes already in production. There was no mythology behind them yet. They were placeholder symbols that looked visually interesting arranged in a circle. What happened next was that the fandom treated the Zodiac as a prophecy. Fans analyzed every symbol, argued about which character each one corresponded to, wrote essays about what the arrangement meant, theorized about what would happen if the circle was completed. The speculation was so intense and so detailed that Hirsch realized he had accidentally created something that the audience believed in deeply, a genuine piece of mythology with weight behind it. And if he did not write it into the actual story, he would be betraying an enormous amount of fan investment. So he did. The Zodiac became canon. It was written into the finale as the actual mechanism that could have stopped Weirdmageddon, the ritual that Dipper and Ford attempt to enact, and that fails when Stan and Ford argue and break the circle. The entire prophecy mechanic, one of the most mythologically significant elements in the show's endgame, grew from a symbol that was initially designed in a hurry as a visual placeholder. The fandom willed it into significance, and the show honored that. In Weirdmageddon, the final arc of the series, Bill finally gets what he has been working toward since before the show began. The barrier between his dimension and Gravity Falls breaks down, and the town is overtaken by the madness and geometry of his home dimension. Gravity Falls becomes a surrealist nightmare. The pyramid rises from the center of town. Reality bends. Time Baby is destroyed. Ford is turned into gold and becomes part of Bill's throne. And then the plan that Stan and Ford devised to stop all of this is quietly brilliant in a way that fits the show's emotional core perfectly. Bill, to enact his final plan for universal catastrophe, needs access to Ford's mind. Ford is the one who knows the equation that would tear down the barrier between dimensions. Bill needs Ford to give it up, and Ford refuses. So Bill makes a deal, which is what Bill does, and in the process of approaching Ford, he is tricked into entering Stanley's mind instead. Stan and Ford have swapped clothes and identities, a callback to the exact confusion about their identities that has driven the entire show. The twins who spent 2 seasons teaching the audience to tell them apart save the world by becoming indistinguishable one last time. When Bill enters Stan's mind, Ford uses the memory-erasing gun to wipe Stan's entire memory. Bill, existing within the mental landscape that is being erased, is destroyed along with it. Stan's sacrifice is total. He gives up everything, all his memories, the brother he spent 30 years trying to save, the summer with the kids, every moment of his life. To stop Bill, he comes out of it blank. The man who was Grunkle Stan, who told bad jokes and ran a tourist scam and missed his brother every day for 30 years, is not there anymore. He has to be rebuilt from Mabel's scrapbook. She sits with him and shows him who he is, page by page, and slowly, over the course of the final scenes, the memories begin to come back. Whether all of Stan's memories fully return is something the show does not answer explicitly. The ending suggests recovery, warmth, reunion, a summer that might have ended but that has changed everyone permanently. But the degree of recovery is left open. This is intentional. The show trusts its audience to sit with ambiguity, to accept that some things cannot be neatly restored, and to find the ending beautiful anyway. I think that trust is part of what makes the finale as affecting as it is. And then, as Bill is destroyed, as the screen goes white and Stan's mind collapses and he comes out the other side empty, there is one more secret. Bill's final words, audible only to the audience and only if you listen very carefully, are played backwards. Reversed, they say, "Axolotl, my time has come to burn. I invoke the ancient power that I may return." The Axolotl is an extra-dimensional creature in the Gravity Falls universe, a being whose power exceeds even Bill Cipher's. Fans have tied the name mythologically to the Aztec deity Axolotl, associated with lightning, death, fire, and twins. As he is destroyed, Bill is invoking something ancient and vast, something we have not been introduced to, asking it to bring him back. The word axolotl is also the Vigenere keyword needed to decode a cipher on a bus seat in the final episode itself. So the keyword that reveals Bill's last secret in the credits is also Bill's dying invocation, spoken aloud in the episode in reverse. Everything is connected. Nothing is accidental. The show in its last moments, when it is supposedly over, is still hiding things. Hirsch has said that he likes leaving threads open, that an unresolved thread gives him a window back into the world if he ever wants to return to it. The axolotl is one of those threads. It is confirmed and deliberate the reversed speech is in the episode. It was put there on purpose, but what it means for Bill's future has never been answered in any official release. The Book of Bill, published in 2024, references the axolotl, but does not fully resolve it. As of now, the question of whether Bill Cipher can or will return remains genuinely open. Running through all 40 episodes of the show, hidden in every corner, in the backgrounds of scenes and on merchandise and in the books and in the production codes, is a number. 6/18, June 18th. The birthday of Alex Hirsch and his twin sister Ariel, June the 18th, rendered as 6/18 and embedded into the fabric of Gravity Falls with the thoroughness of a signature. The Mystery Shack's address is 618 Gopher Road. The cash register in the Mystery Shack, if you freeze frame it, often displays the amount $6.18. Stan's prisoner identification number, in Not What He Seems, is 061800. Journal 3's introduction page is dated June 18th. The main production code for the show begins with G618, and the episode codes all start with that sequence. A game score visible in the attic reads 8190, which when flipped upside down reads 0618. In Journal 2, Bill Cipher's entry contains the number 816, which is 618 reversed, multiple times. The number appears in virtually every episode, in places that require varying degrees of dedication to find, from the completely obvious, like the shack's address, to the genuinely hidden, like the upside-down attic score. What makes the 618 Easter egg interesting, beyond the personal sentiment behind it, is the scale. Most shows do this kind of thing once or twice as a nod to the creator's birthday or a significant date in the production. Gravity Falls embeds it in every episode, across 2 seasons and 40 episodes and every piece of spin-off material. It becomes a kind of visual rhythm, a beat that is always there underneath everything else, a private signature repeated until it is more of a watermark than an Easter egg. Once you know about it, you cannot unsee it. You start looking for it the way you look for ciphers in the credits, half-consciously, catching it in the corner of your eye and registering it as confirmation that you are watching something that was made with extraordinary care. The most surreal appearance of 618 in the show's universe is in a short from the Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained series that aired during Disney Channel's Monstober season in 2013. In one of those shorts, McGucket, raving and disheveled and surrounded by conspiracy boards, references the recurring number directly. He says it has been haunting his dreams, and he draws the conclusion, delivered in a comedic register but with enough genuine unsettlement underneath it, that the joke lands on multiple levels, that they are all just drawings on a page, that the number is a clue from a creature from another dimension who controls the world they live in. McGucket, in a comedy short, accidentally articulates the correct explanation for why 618 appears everywhere in Gravity Falls. The show is briefly and genuinely breaking the fourth wall, putting the real answer in the mouth of a character who no one is supposed to take seriously, delivered as a punchline, with a wink at the camera. It is the kind of moment that Gravity Falls does better than almost any other show I can think of. It takes a joke and makes it mean something. Alongside the cipher system and the twin mystery and Bill's hidden presence, the show was also hiding a different kind of secret in its backgrounds, one that would not pay off for several episodes, but that retroactively transforms earlier scenes once you understand what you are looking at. Blendin Blandin is a time traveler, a hapless employee of a time travel bureau in the far future, whose formal introduction in the show comes in Season 1, Episode 9, The Time Traveler's Pig, but he appears in the background of Episodes 1, 2, and 3 before he ever has a line or a name. In Tourist Trapped, the first episode, Blendin is in the bushes during the gnome attack, picking up Mabel's flower hair clip from the ground. In The Legend of the Gobblewonker, Episode 2, he is present at the lake, picking up a calculator someone left behind. In Headhunters, Episode 3, he is standing in the crowd at the wax figure unveiling. None of these appearances are announced. They require either a freeze-frame pause or a very sharp eye during normal viewing to catch. Blendin wears a camouflage jumpsuit designed to blend with his surroundings, which means he is technically hidden by design, even as a character within the fiction of the show. The retroactive explanation for why he is there comes in Episode 9. Dipper and Mabel accidentally travel back in time, and in the process, they leave behind objects that do not belong in the past, anachronisms that the Time Bureau has to clean up. Blendin is the agent assigned to retrieve those objects, and the specific items he is picking up in Episodes 1, 2, and 3 are the anachronistic items that Dipper and Mabel left behind during their time travel adventure in Episode 9, which technically happens after Episodes 1 through 3 in broadcast order, but before them in the timeline Blendin is working in. The show is retrofitting its own continuity. The background appearances that looked like animation quirks become retroactive plot points, explained by events that had not aired yet at the time of those background appearances. This is one of those moments where the craft of the show becomes genuinely impressive, rather than just charming. Most animated shows treat continuity loosely because loose continuity is easier to manage. Gravity Falls chose to tighten its continuity around a time travel mechanic in a way that required careful pre-planning of background details in episodes that would air weeks before the explanation. Someone had to put Blendin in those backgrounds knowing that his presence would not be explained for several more episodes, trusting that the payoff would come and would be worth it. Blendin's voice was provided by Justin Roiland, who was Alex Hirsch's friend and would go on to co-create Rick and Morty. Roiland and Hirsch had overlapping creative circles, and Blendin's voice has a quality that fans of Rick and Morty will find familiar, that particular brand of nervous, slightly unhinged energy that Roiland brings to characters who are not quite in control of their situation. Blendin is a small part in the show, but he is a well-cast one, and his connection to the Book of Bill ARG in 2024 adds another layer to his presence in the franchise. The Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained shorts, which aired during Disney Channel's Monstober event in 2013, contain a hidden message that is among the most emotionally significant pieces of hidden content in the entire franchise. Each short, which is a comedic bit of Dipper investigating some strange phenomenon around Gravity Falls, ends with a split-second flash of a parchment containing encoded text. The encoding has two layers: the bottom code, when decoded using the Caesar cipher with a shift of 3, reads, "From the first to the last, search the codes of credits past. 1 means 1, so search them all. Welcome to Gravity Falls." That is the meta instruction, telling the audience to go back and decode every credit message from every episode. But the second layer is the one that stops you cold. The red numbers embedded in the parchment point to a different decoded message entirely. When worked through, the message reads, "I was so blind, he lied to me. The darkness is near." The message is written from Ford's perspective. Ford, the author of the journals, the man who built the portal in the belief that he was opening a gateway to scientific discovery, is writing about the moment he realized that Bill had deceived him about the portal's true purpose. Bill was never interested in scientific discovery. He wanted to merge his dimension with the physical world, which would mean the end of reality as anything human beings understand it. Ford built the instrument of potential apocalypse because he trusted a triangular demon in a top hat who told him what he wanted to hear. "I was so blind, he lied to me." This is Ford's private confession, hidden in a short that most viewers probably registered as a comedic interstitial, decoded only by the people willing to sit with freeze frame and cipher tables. As a piece of emotional storytelling, it is extraordinary. Journal 3, the in-universe book written by Ford Pines and published as a real physical book in 2016, is one of the most elaborate physical artifacts produced in connection with the show. The standard edition contains a significant number of its own secrets. There are Rick and Morty Easter eggs embedded in the text, including a silhouette of a plumbus and text near a drawing of Ford's mugshot that nods to the creative connection between the two properties. Alex Hirsch has stated publicly that Journal 3 contains codes he has not seen anyone solve yet. That statement was made in connection with the book's release, and as of the current date, it remains true. The book is essentially an active puzzle, a physical object with unsolved mysteries inside it, sitting on shelves in people's homes with its secrets still locked inside. The special edition of Journal 3, published in June of 2017, is something else again. Only 10,000 copies were produced. Each one included a physical magnifying glass, a tassel bookmark, removable photographs and notes tucked between the pages, and a signed note from Alex Hirsch. More significantly, the special edition contains content that is only visible under ultraviolet light. Without a black light, you see the standard book. Under a black light, hidden messages and illustrations appear throughout the pages, a completely separate layer of content invisible to the naked eye, accessible only with the right tool. The 10,000 people who own a special edition copy of Journal 3 have access to information that no one else can see, with some of that content still unsolved, according to Hirsch himself. Dipper's and Mabel's Guide to Mystery and Nonstop Fun, published in October of 2014 during the Season 2 broadcast run, hides its secrets a little differently. There is a section in the book written from Gideon Gleeful's perspective, and the capitalized words in that section, read in sequence from the first letter of each one downward, form an acrostic. It spells, "Help me escape or be destroyed." Gideon, writing from prison, has embedded a distress call and a threat in his contribution to what is nominally a fun companion book. It is a perfectly Gideon thing to do, and it works both as a character moment and as a genuine hidden message that most readers would never find on a casual read-through. Gravity Falls, Lost Legends, the graphic novel published in July of 2018, the same summer as the complete series DVD and Blu-ray release, contains hidden messages that extend the show's mythology in specific directions. A decoded cryptogram in the book reads, "Bill lives." Another, encoded in Bill's own symbol substitution cipher, reads, "Where is your axolotl now?" These are not ambiguous. They are deliberate extensions of the question left open by Bill's backwards invocation in the finale, placed in a book published 2 years after the series ended, in a graphic novel that also contains 4 completely new stories set in the Gravity Falls universe. The message is, the mystery is still running. The question of whether Bill is truly gone is still a live question, embedded in officially licensed published material. Lost Legends also contains Easter eggs that connect Gravity Falls to another Disney animated property. Ida Clawthorne from the Owl House appears in the background of one scene, and there are additional nods to the Owl House scattered through the book. These Easter eggs predate the Owl House's premiere, planted as a friendly nod to creator Dana Terrace's upcoming project. The Gravity Falls creative community and the Owl House creative community had close ties through Disney's animation division, and Hirsch appeared in the Owl House as a voice actor. Lost Legends also contains one of the most tantalizing unresolved objects in Gravity Falls lore. On a bookshelf belonging to the creature Schmebulok, there is what fans have identified as a fourth journal. Journals 1, 2, and 3 are all accounted for in the show's canon. No one has officially explained what a fourth journal would be or who wrote it. It is there on the shelf. You can see it. No canonical explanation has ever been offered. Whether it represents a planned future storyline, a nod to a future project, or simply a background detail that has been assigned significance by fan attention, is something Hirsch has never publicly addressed. Lost Legends also contains another detail that rewards close attention. Dipper's original hat, which was lost to a gnome in the very first episode of the show, appears on Schmebulok's bookshelf in the same scene. The hat went somewhere. The show never addressed where. Lost Legends, 2 years after the series finale, quietly puts it on a shelf and moves on, as if the show's entire journey was just one more artifact in a universe full of strange things that come and go. The Cipher Hunt of 2016 is where the secrets left the screen entirely and entered the physical world. The setup for it was in the series finale itself. At the end of Weirdmageddon 3, which aired on February 15, 2016, there is a brief shot of what appears to be a real-world location with a real Bill Cipher statue, stone, weathered, sitting somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Alongside it, encoded in the episode, is a riddle about buried treasure deep within the woods near a statue beyond the rusty gates. This is not a cartoon background. It is real footage of a real object sitting somewhere in the real world, and the show is inviting its audience to find it. The hunt formally began on July 20, 2016, roughly 5 months after the finale aired. In that time, the community had been processing the finale's hidden content, discussing the Bill statue footage, theorizing about where it might be. When the hunt launched, it unfolded as a global scavenger hunt across multiple countries, with each clue location yielding the coordinates or instructions for the next one. The first clue was in St. Petersburg, Russia. Finding it required a fan or group of fans in St. Petersburg to physically travel to the site, locate the clue, and relay the information to the broader community. The second clue was in Tokyo, Japan. From Russia to Japan, across an ocean, the trail continued. The third clue moved to Los Angeles, California, to a park in Century City whose overhead shape, seen from above, echoes the Eye of Providence, the same pyramid and eye symbol that Bill Cipher is based on. From there, the trail moved up through California, stopping in Piedmont, the city where Alex Hirsch was born, and where a piece of the puzzle was tied to a tree stump in a local park. Then to Confusion Hill in California, where a jar of eyeballs contained the next clue. Then to Portland, Oregon, where a lawn gnome on a corner in northeast Portland contained a Viewmaster and a clue. Then further south through Oregon, with stops in small towns until the trail closed in on the final site. And finally, in the woods near Reedsport, Oregon, the statue was buried. The Bill Cipher statue was built by prop and effects artist Fawn Davis, out of plexiglass, a material chosen for its durability against outdoor weather conditions. Davis coated the statue with glue and embedded seeds in the coating so that moss would grow on it over time, giving it the appearance of having been there for years, of being genuinely old and worn and discovered, rather than recently made and planted. The statue was designed to age into its surroundings. When it was found, if it had been sitting in those woods for a while, the moss would have started to take hold, and the statue would have looked more like something that had always been there. The statue was found on August 2, 2016, 13 days after the hunt began. The community that had assembled to follow the hunt had been tracking clues across 3 countries and multiple states, coordinating across time zones, translating clues from Russian and Japanese, moving physical people to physical locations to retrieve information. When the statue was found, it was a collective moment in the way that major fandom events sometimes are, a shared experience of completion that the community had worked toward together. The treasure chest buried near the statue contained a specific collection of objects: plastic coins and gems, Russian and Japanese currency, actual banknotes from 2 of the hunt's international locations, a signed copy of Journal 3 with an original drawing by Hirsch, a blacklight flashlight, a plastic crown, a sash designating the finder, the mayor of Gravity Falls, a music box with Bill's eye drawn on the lid, playing the show's theme song when wound, a slip of paper with a message from Hirsch written in invisible ink, readable only with the blacklight flashlight included in the chest, and a USB drive containing a message from Grunkle Stan recorded by Alex Hirsch in character, playing against the X-Files theme song in the background. The statue itself was subsequently moved from the Oregon woods to Confusion Hill in Piercy, California, where it now sits as a permanent exhibit. You can go see it. The Bill Cipher statue from the end of Gravity Falls, the same one glimpsed in the series finale, the one that the 13-day global scavenger hunt was built around, is sitting in California at a roadside attraction that is itself the kind of eccentric place that inspired the show's creation in the first place. There is something satisfying about that. The show was partly inspired by roadside oddities, the mystery spots and the vortex attractions and the roadside signs that suggested strangeness was everywhere if you looked for it, and it deposited its own physical artifact at one of them. The moss that Fawn Davis seeded into the plexiglass coating has been growing for years now. Bill Cipher is aging into his surroundings, becoming a fixture of the landscape rather than a planted object, exactly as designed. The Book of Bill, published on July 23, 2024, represented the largest and most ambitious new Gravity Falls content since Lost Legends in 2018. It came 8 years after the series finale, which by any measure is a long gap, but the fandom that received it was not smaller or less engaged than the fandom that had watched the show in its original run. If anything, the community had spent those 8 years deepening its investment, rewatching episodes, finding new background details, cross-referencing the books with the show, and waiting for Hirsch to do something new with the universe. When the Book of Bill arrived, it landed into an audience that was ready for it in a way that is rare in any medium. The book was published by Disney's adult-facing imprint, and it was the first Gravity Falls release specifically targeted at adult readers. It contains violence and strong language, and explicitly dark content that the television show, constrained by its Disney Channel broadcast context, could not have included. The decision to publish it under the adult imprint was a signal that Hirsch was not treating this as a children's companion book, but as a genuine extension of the mythology into darker territory. The book is written from Bill Cipher's perspective, epistolary in structure, full of new ciphers and new puzzles. New cipher systems appear in it, associated with Bill's home dimension and with his current location after the events of the finale. The book assumes familiarity with Gravity Falls lore and does not hold back. If you are new to the franchise and pick up the Book of Bill first, you will be confused quickly. It is written for the dedicated audience. The ARG connected to the Book of Bill launched around the book's release and ran through the summer of 2024. Hidden on one of the book's pages, a URL is embedded, leading to a website. The URL is not highlighted or flagged. It is embedded in the text in a way that requires either knowing to look for it or reading very carefully. Getting into the website requires a password, and the password is drawn from a reference to The Great Gatsby within the book itself, specifically the famous image of the eyes of Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg on the billboard, which echoes Bill's ever-watching eye. The website, once accessed, revealed a countdown clock set to end at the end of July 2024. When the countdown reached 0, the site updated to an interactive desk scene featuring a Book of Bill, a candle, a knife, a pyramid light prism, an eyeball flask, and a retro computer. The computer accepted typed inputs, and fans immediately began testing words. Typing spooky revealed one image. Typing Ford revealed another. Typing sorry revealed another. Typing just Blendon revealed an old real-life photograph with Blendon Blandon, hairless, tucked into the corner. The community spent weeks finding new passwords and sharing new content. Among the most significant news stories, a post-series journal entry, co-written by Ford and Mabel, titled Ad Astra per Aspera, giving a glimpse of life for the Pines family after the finale. A story called Tantrum, depicting the original confrontation between Bill Cipher and Time Baby in the backstory of the mythology. A story called Platinum Pause, in which Bill offers Pacifica Northwest a deal. And a lengthy story whose title, when the words are reversed, reads Connect the Dots, following Bill Cipher's activities in the 1950s when he was quietly building a cult. Fans also found a password hidden in Morse code in the stitching of a shoe visible in one of the book's illustrations, with the decoded result needing to be reversed to work. The ARG was layered enough that community members were still finding new pieces weeks and months after the book's launch. The Book of Bill and its ARG represent not just new Gravity Falls content, but a specific kind of content, the most intense, adult-focused, mythology-deepening material the franchise has ever produced. It is a book that could only exist for an audience that has been with the show for a decade, that knows the history, that has decoded the credits and followed the cipher hunt, and spent years discussing whether Bill is truly gone. It is pitched directly at those people, and it rewards that investment in kind. As of the summer of 2026, a Gravity Falls revival of some kind remains a live question. A Disney executive named Meredith Roberts confirmed in June of 2024 that conversations with Alex Hirsch about a potential return were ongoing, using the phrase, "never say never." Kristen Schaal, in a separate interview, characterized Hirsch as done with the series. These two statements are not necessarily contradictory. Hirsch may feel that the story he wanted to tell is complete, while remaining open to discussions about what a future project in the universe might look like if the right idea emerged. No Season 3 has been announced. No feature project has materialized. The Book of Bill and the 2024 ARG are the most recent substantial additions to the franchise. An art book has been discussed for future release, though what new information it might contain is unknown. There is a specific episode of Gravity Falls that I think gets under-discussed in the context of the show's hidden content, and that episode is Northwest Mansion Mystery, Season 2, Episode 10. On the surface, it is a ghost story, a haunted mansion. Dipper and Pacifica Northwest forced to work together to confront a supernatural threat on the night of the annual Northwest Party. It is a good episode by any standard, but the details underneath it are extraordinarily specific. Pacifica Northwest throughout the episode wears bright red gloves. Red is not a neutral color choice in a show that treats every visual decision as a potential piece of communication. Board artist Alonso Ramirez Ramos confirmed publicly that the red gloves are there to symbolize the blood on the Northwest family's hands. The Northwest family, as the episode reveals, built their wealth and social position on a lie. Their ancestors were not the noble founders of Gravity Falls that the town's mythology holds them to be, but con artists who tricked the actual settlers and took credit for the town's founding. The haunted portrait gallery in the mansion shows whitewashed versions of history in the public-facing rooms and the actual history, unedited, in a secret room that the family keeps locked away. Pacifica herself is a victim of the family as much as a perpetrator of its legacy, raised in an environment of control and shame and conditional love that has made her contemptuous and defensive as a shell over something more vulnerable underneath. The red gloves speak to all of that. They mark her as carrying the family's guilt even before she understands it or acknowledges it. The color is precise. A board artist confirmed it explicitly. The show is that specific, that deliberate, in even small costume decisions for a character who does not belong to the main cast. There is also a moment near the end of Northwest Mansion Mystery that connects Pacifica to the larger mythology in a way most viewers miss on a first pass. After the ghost departs, he says something to Pacifica that sounds like a standard haunted house departure line, but the phrasing carries a reference to her fate being sealed, and the llama motif that will later serve as Pacifica's symbol on the Bill Cipher Zodiac wheel is subtly present in the episode. The Zodiac wheel has not been fully explained to the audience at this point in Season 2. Pacifica's role in the prophecy, as one of the 10 people who could form the circle to defeat Bill, has not been established on screen yet, but the episode plants her symbol and the language of sealed fate, suggesting that the writers knew her role in the finale long before they wrote it. This connects to something about the show's production method more broadly. The writers had the finale in mind for much of the series. The Stan twin reveal was planned from Episode 1, as Hirsch has confirmed multiple times. Bill Cipher's role as the ultimate antagonist was established from early in the process, even if the specific mechanism of Weirdmageddon evolved over time. The Zodiac wheel was accidentally created and then written into the story by fan demand, but once it was canon, the show retroactively folded it into earlier episodes through exactly this kind of quiet symbol placement. The show's architecture is dense enough that even the accidental elements eventually find their structural place. The Between the Pines special, which aired on February 8, 2016 on Disney XD and 4 days later on Disney Channel, is the closest thing the show ever had to a proper behind-the-scenes retrospective while it was still technically airing. Hirsch framed it as himself having been abducted by Time Baby and forced to answer fan questions, which is the most Gravity Falls possible format for a making-of special. It ran for 22 minutes and confirmed several pieces of information that had been in the territory of theory or inference. Among the things confirmed in that special, Bill Cipher was designed by taking the Eye of Providence from the back of the United States dollar bill and giving it a top hat and bow tie. The dollar bill is where he got his name. The multi-bear, a monster who appears in Season 1 asking only to be allowed to listen to his favorite music in peace, was originally called Bear Bear, specifically because the writers wanted Dipper to be able to deliver the line, "There, there, Bear Bear." The name was changed, but the joke survived in the emotional register of the scene. Blendon Blandon is bald because constant time travel causes his hair to catch fire. This explains the character's perpetual hairlessness as a purely practical consequence of his job, which is funnier and more world-building consistent than any alternative explanation. Hirsch also confirmed in that special, and in interviews around the finale period, that he had been staying up until 3 in the morning to insert hidden details into episodes that he fully expected only 2 or 3 people would ever notice. That number turned out to be wildly optimistic in the underestimating direction. The Gravity Falls fan community for coded content numbered in the thousands within the first season, and by Season 2, was effectively a distributed cryptography network that could decode any episode's credit message within hours of broadcast. The 3-person audience Hirsch imagined became a coordinated global effort. What the Between the Pines special communicated, beyond any specific fact it confirmed, was that the show was built by someone who genuinely loved hiding things. Not for promotional reasons, not to generate buzz or extend engagement metrics, but because Hirsch found the hiding itself satisfying. The same instinct that made him stay up until 3 in the morning, embedding a cipher message into a credit sequence, knowing almost nobody would find it, is the same instinct that eventually drove the cipher hunt and the Book of Bill ARG. Hirsch has described a version of pure joy in creating something that is there and true and real, whether or not anyone ever sees it. Dipper's birthmark bridges the show's real-world origins and its storytelling in a way that repays a closer look. Dipper Pines is not named Dipper in the show's official fiction. That nickname comes from his birthmark, which is shaped like the Big Dipper constellation. Hirsch has said the inspiration for that birthmark came from a real kid he knew whose acne formed a perfect Big Dipper pattern on his face. A piece of real adolescent self-consciousness, the kind of physical distinguishing feature that a 12-year-old carries with them as both an identity marker and a source of potential insecurity, became both the show's protagonist's nickname and a constellation that serves as his identifying symbol on the Zodiac wheel. The pine tree on Dipper's hat, his other identifying symbol, connects him to Gravity Falls itself, to the forest and the mystery, to the place where his summer happens and where his sense of who he is begins to form. The Zodiac Wheel's 10 symbols deserve a complete accounting in any serious discussion of the show's hidden content, because even the casual viewer who has never decoded a cipher knows the Zodiac by the time the finale rolls around, and the care taken in matching each symbol to each character is quietly impressive. Seuss carries the question mark because his shirt has always had a question mark on it, and because Seuss himself is a question the show loves without answering fully, a young man whose kindness and loyalty are uncomplicated in the best possible way, whose life before and beyond the Mystery Shack remains partly mysterious. Wendy gets the ice bag because she is the character who never loses her cool, who stays level when everything around her is falling apart, whose competence is so consistent it approaches a kind of supernatural quality in its own right. Stan's symbol is the crescent with the fez, the most visually distinctive element of his appearance, the hat that is part costume and part identity, that Stan wears as both a prop for his tourist trap persona and as a genuine marker of who he is. Dipper gets the pine tree from his hat. Mabel gets the shooting star from her sweater, the star motif that appears in her wardrobe across dozens of episodes as a constant gentle signal of her character's quality of brightness and motion. Gideon gets the pentagram with the eye from the symbol associated with his tent of telepathy and his stage persona as a child psychic. Ford gets the 6-fingered hand from his polydactyly. Robbie gets the stitched heart from his hoodie's graphic. Pacifica gets the llama, a connection established through her storyline and through the visual language of the symbol placement in Northwest Mansion Mystery. The 10th symbol, the glasses, is the one that has generated the most fan discussion about which character it represents. Every one of these symbols was in the show before the Zodiac was written into the story as a plot mechanism. Every one of them existed in the show's visual language as a character identifier before they were arranged in a circle and given prophetic significance. When Hirsch and the artist he was working with sat in that rushed meeting and grabbed images from the first 7 episodes, they were pulling from symbols that were already doing real character work. The Zodiac did not impose meaning on random images. It organized meaning that was already there, which is why the fan community responded to it as if it were a genuine piece of mythology rather than a design decision made under time pressure. One of the things that makes the show's hidden content feel cohesive rather than random is precisely this quality. The secrets and the visible content draw from the same wells. The cipher messages in the credits are tonally consistent with the show's themes. The hidden identity clues for Stan use the same visual vocabulary as the show's established character work. The symbols in the Zodiac are the same symbols that have been telling us who these characters are all along. The mystery layer does not feel attached to the show from outside. It feels like it grew from the same root. The scrapped ideas and unused concepts from the show's development are part of the full picture of what it became, because they define what it is by contrast. The scrapped adult protagonist concept, an ironic, distanced show about a young man investigating strangeness, would have been a fundamentally different kind of show, perhaps more in the tradition of adult-targeted animated comedies that use genre conventions to deconstruct adult anxieties. The choice to center children instead, to make Dipper and Mabel the protagonists, meant that the supernatural threats had to be genuinely threatening in a way that the stakes were real, that there was no ironic remove available, that the stakes of the mystery had to be felt as stakes rather than acknowledged as genre conventions. The scrapped Peaks twins, two pale and creepy children who could have taught Dipper and Mabel to harness twin psychic powers, would have pulled the show in a direction that made its twin protagonists special in a more overtly supernatural way. The decision to cut them kept Dipper and Mabel human in a show full of supernatural beings, which is exactly right. Their special quality is their bond with each other and with Stan, not any power they were born with. A version of the show where the twins had psychic powers would have shifted the emotional logic of the whole thing. A scrapped Wendy weather-controlling episode came close to production in Season 2 and was replaced by The Last Mabelcorn. It is interesting less for what it would have been and more for what The Last Mabelcorn actually is. That episode, in which Mabel goes on a quest for unicorn hair while Ford deals with the increasingly frightening implications of having made a deal with Bill Cipher, is one of the more emotionally complex episodes of Season 2, and one that quietly deepens both Mabel's character and Ford's. A Wendy Weather episode in its place would have given a secondary character a power upgrade that the show ultimately decided it did not need. Wendy's power in the show is her competence and her calm and her genuine affection for the family she found at the Mystery Shack. Giving her literal weather control would have been a different kind of statement. Double Dipper, the Season 1 episode where Dipper uses a photocopier to create multiple versions of himself to help manage a party, was originally conceived along different lines. In an earlier version, Dipper summoned an actual monster to destroy Stan's party. The problem the writers identified was that this made Dipper too actively unlikable, too willing to cause real harm for selfish reasons. The shift to the photocopier premise let the episode keep its comedy about Dipper's overthinking and self-consciousness while keeping him sympathetic. Dipper copying himself to try to talk to Wendy is a very different statement about the character than Dipper summoning a monster to ruin his uncle's business. The revision made a better episode and a better version of the character. The Seuss name situation is worth returning to in slightly more detail, because it touches on something about what it meant to make this show on Disney Channel in the early 2010s. Hirsch's intention was that Seuss would be addressed at some point by his full name, and that the moment of his full name being used would carry a particular weight, the difference between the casual, affectionate nickname and the full formal identity. Disney raised concerns in the context of potential complaints about religious references, and the compromise was that Seuss remained Seuss throughout the run, with his full name established in supplementary material rather than in the show itself. The show pushed against its broadcast context in many ways, in the complexity of its storytelling, in the genuinely dark content of some of its supernatural threats, in the emotional sophistication of its family drama. This is one case where the broadcast context pushed back. The Polaroids in the opening credits sequence are another piece of the show's hidden content that operates in a slightly different register from the ciphers and the name clues. The opening montage includes a series of Polaroid photographs that, in the earliest episodes, depict things the audience has not yet encountered. As Season 1 progresses and Season 2 begins, the Polaroids update to include new characters and events, and attentive viewers started using the Polaroid sequence as a source of foreshadowing and prediction, reading them for hints about what was coming. The sequence includes images of every major antagonist the twins will face: the gnomes, the hand witch, the Summerween monster, Gideon Gleeful, Blendin Blandin. It also includes Bill Cipher's Zodiac wheel. And it includes Blendin himself, present in the opening sequence before his formal introduction in Episode 9, one more piece of background seating that retroactively makes sense, but that most viewers would not have registered on first viewing. The way these background elements work, cumulatively, is not just as isolated hidden details, but as a system that trains the viewer to look. Once you know that Blendon was in episodes 1 through 3 before his introduction, you watch every subsequent episode with slightly more attention to the background, wondering what else is there. Once you know that the Zodiac wheel flashes at the end of the opening, you pause at the end of the opening. Once you know that the credit cipher messages change type across the season, you check every episode's credits. The hidden content creates its own audience, an audience that has been trained by the show itself to look for secrets, which in turn means the secrets are found more quickly and shared more widely, which in turn gives the show a feedback loop of community engagement that sustained and deepened the fan base through gaps in broadcast and years after the finale. That is not accidental. Hirsch's decision to build in the cipher system, the background cameos, the license plates and the glasses and the six-fingered journals was also a decision about what kind of audience engagement the show would generate. A show that hides things trains an audience to find things. An audience that finds things becomes an audience that is actively invested in the show as a collaborative experience, one where the creator hides and the fans seek, and both sides understand that the game is real. The McGucket hoax is the extreme version of that game, a moment where the creator used the audience's own investigative habits against them to protect a secret that the audience was close to finding. But even without anything that aggressive, the basic structure of the show's hidden content layer is a structure that creates and sustains the kind of deep fandom that Gravity Falls has had long after its last episode aired. The show's broadcast history, from June of 2012 to February of 2016, covers a period when streaming was growing, but linear broadcasts still shaped how animated series were experienced. Episodes aired once a week, sometimes with longer gaps between batches. The Season 2 gap, between the end of Season 1 in August of 2013 and the Season 2 premiere in August of 2014, lasted an entire year. During that year, the community decoding the cipher messages, developing the twin theory, speculating about the Zodiac, had nothing to go on but the existing episodes and whatever supplementary material was available. The Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained Shorts, which aired during Monstober 2013, gave that community something to work with during the gap. Ford's hidden message in the shorts, "I was so blind, he lied to me, the darkness is near," was sitting in those shorts for fans who had discovered the cipher layer to find. The rating numbers for the show's final episodes reflect what happens when a long-running mystery series delivers its payoff to a deeply invested audience. A Tale of Two Stands, the twin reveal episode, drew 1.91 million viewers, a Disney XD record at the time. The series finale, Weirdmageddon 3: Take Back the Falls, aired on February 15, 2016, and drew 2.47 million viewers, breaking the record set by A Tale of Two Stands. Disney XD held an all-day finale event around the broadcast that drew a large combined audience across the network. Gravity Falls held a strong position in Disney XD's telecast rankings in the key kids demographics. These numbers matter not just as a measure of the show's popularity, but as evidence of what the hidden content layer accomplished at scale. The audience that came to the finale was not just an audience that liked a cartoon. It was an audience that had decoded cipher messages, followed ARG clues, caught background cameos, pieced together the twin mystery over 2 years, and was ready to receive a payoff that the show had been building toward from the opening credits of the first episode. The viewers who watched Weirdmageddon 3 in real time were watching a payoff arrive for something they had been genuinely invested in solving. The rating reflects that investment. People who feel like participants in a mystery do not miss the finale. The Emmy Awards and Annie Awards and BAFTA Children's Award the show received are formal recognition of quality that the numbers also reflect. Those trophies went to the craft, the writing, the animation, the voice performance. These awards acknowledge the visible layer of the show, the comedy and the emotional storytelling and the visual quality. The hidden layer, the ciphers and the planted clues and the real-world ARGs, does not have an award category. But it is the hidden layer that turned a well-crafted animated series into something closer to a cultural experience. A show that its audience did not just watch, but lived inside, carrying decoding skills into their daily lives, and treating every piece of Gravity Falls material as a potential puzzle. The awards themselves are worth pausing on for a moment, because a show can win awards and still not have this kind of grip on its audience, and Gravity Falls has both. 2 Emmys, 3 Annies, a BAFTA, and the specific respect of the people inside animation who know how hard this is to do. The awards say that the industry recognized the craft, that people who spend their working lives making cartoons looked at Gravity Falls and understood that what Hirsch and his team had pulled off was unusual. And the awards do not measure what the audience did with it, which is the other half of the story. You do not usually get both. Most shows that win the awards do not generate the kind of long-tail fan investment that outlives the broadcast. Most shows that generate that kind of fan investment do not win the awards. Gravity Falls quietly did both, and it did them from a Disney Channel slot that most people would have assumed limited what was possible. The relationship between Alex Hirsch and his twin sister Ariel Hirsch runs through the show in a way that is both biographical and structural. Alex and Ariel are the same age as Dipper and Mabel. The summers they spent at their great-aunt's cabin in the woods in their childhood are the summers Dipper and Mabel spend in Gravity Falls. June 18th is both their birthday, embedded in every episode as 6/18. Mabel's character was shaped in significant ways by Ariel, not as a direct self-portrait, but as a version of the particular kind of person Ariel was, bright and optimistic and creatively overflowing and warmly present in the way that some people are warmly present in any room they enter. Hirsch has never been sentimental about this in a way that feels performative. He does not claim to have made a show about his sister. He made a show about twins spending a summer in a strange place, and the fact that he has a twin and spent summers in strange places with her is the substrate underneath all of that, the lived experience that gives the emotional material its texture and its specificity. Dipper and Mabel's relationship, the tension and the loyalty and the way they each represent something the other does not have, is so credible because it is drawn from something real. The 6/18 Easter egg is not just a private joke, it is a signature, present in every episode, reminding anyone who knows what it means that this is a love letter, that underneath all the ciphers and the monsters and the portal and Bill Cipher and the Society of the Blind Eye, there is a person who spent summers with his twin sister in the woods and made a show about what that felt like. There is a moment in the sock opera episode of Season 2 when Bill Cipher has taken control of Dipper's body and is terrorizing the puppet show Mabel has been working on all episode, where the episode's emotional stakes and its hidden content layer are completely aligned. The end credits poem warns that abnormal soon will be the norm. Enjoy the calm before the storm. But inside the episode itself, during a musical montage in Dipper's journal, there is a cryptogram that fans have decoded to a description of Bill as pure energy, rising like the shepherd tone. The shepherd tone is an auditory illusion in which a sound seems to rise infinitely, always ascending but never actually going higher, a perpetual sense of escalation that never resolves. Describing Bill Cipher's nature as something that rises like the shepherd tone is an extraordinarily precise piece of writing, embedded in a credit-sized joke in a background prop in a musical montage in a 22-minute episode of a Disney animated series. It says, "Bill is not a fixed thing with a fixed ceiling. He is a perception of infinite escalation. He is the feeling that things are always getting worse, always rising, never arriving at a final bottom or a final top. That is the register the hidden content operates in at its best. Not just a plot clue or a clever cipher message, but something that adds a genuine layer of meaning to a character or a moment that is already working on the visible layer. The shepherd tone description of Bill deepens how you think about him without being necessary to understand the episode. The six-fingered hand on the journal covers deepens how you think about the journals without being necessary to follow the story. The Stan is not what he seems cipher in the opening credits deepens how you think about everything Stan does without being necessary to enjoy the show, episode by episode. The hidden layer enriches rather than gatekeeps. You do not have to find the secrets to love the show, but finding them makes you love it differently. The Ford and Mabel ad astra per aspera story, revealed through the Book of Bill ARG in 2024, is worth dwelling on for a moment as an example of what the expanded Gravity Falls universe looks like when it works. That story is a post-series journal entry co-written by two characters whose relationship in the show is one of its most carefully handled secondary dynamics. Ford returns from 30 years of interdimensional exile to find that his twin brother has been running a tourist trap in his research lab, that the nephew and niece he never knew are somehow completely central to stopping a supernatural apocalypse, and that the golden heart of this found family is an optimistic 12-year-old girl with a scrapbook. Ford is precise and guarded and intellectual and wounded. Mabel is none of those things. The story of how they figure out how to be in each other's lives after Weirdmageddon is one the show does not have time to tell fully in its remaining episodes. A post-series journal entry written in both their voices, found through an ARG puzzle hidden in a book published 8 years after the finale, is the kind of thing that only a specifically dedicated community would ever find. It was made for exactly those people. This is the logic of the whole enterprise, from the earliest Caesar cipher in the closing credits of Tourist Trapped, all the way through to the Morse code in the shoe stitching of the Book of Bill. The content is always proportionate to the effort. The easy stuff, the 618 in the Shack's address, the Zodiac wheel at the end of the opening credits, the reversed whisper telling you what cipher to use. These are accessible to anyone who knows to look. The harder stuff, the combined cipher at the end of the Season 1 finale, requiring all 3 previous methods in sequence, the Vigenere keywords hidden in episode backgrounds, the UV content in the Special Edition Journal 3, the Book of Bill ARG puzzle hidden in a shoe's stitching. These require real work, real commitment, the kind of investment that indicates an audience member who has decided to engage fully with the show as a system rather than just as a story. Every level of engagement has something waiting at it. The show meets you where you are. The episode Not What He Seems, Season 2, Episode 11, is the pivot point of the entire series. The episode where the cover-up the show has been running for 2 seasons nearly falls apart, and where the audience finally sees the mechanism underneath. Stan is arrested. The government has been tracking the energy readings from the portal beneath the Mystery Shack. Dipper finds a fake identity folder that confirms Stan is not who he says he is. Mabel is forced to make a choice she cannot fully understand, whether to trust the man she loves as her uncle, even though everything suggests he has been hiding something enormous. The end credits message for Not What He Seems decodes to, "He is lying. Someone you know is hiding the truth." The reversed whisper in the theme song for this specific episode changes to "Not What He Seems," the exact phrase from the original hidden message that has been in the opening credits since episode 1. The show is calling back to its own secret from the beginning, completing a 2-year loop between the first Caesar cipher in the opening montage and the moment of maximum tension in the episode that resolves it. The audience members who had decoded the opening credits message in 2012 and had been waiting for the reveal ever since, heard the whisper change and understood that this was it, that the thing they had been promised from the first 60 seconds was finally arriving. Society of the Blind Eye, Season 2, Episode 7, which aired on October 27, 2014, is the episode that formally closes the door on the McGucket as author theory and begins the process of revealing the truth about Ford and the portal. It also expands the show's mythology outward in a direction that makes the town of Gravity Falls feel like a place with a history that precedes the summer of the twins' arrival by decades. The society, as the episode reveals, has been systematically erasing the memories of anyone in Gravity Falls who witnesses the town's supernatural events. McGucket, who was once Ford's brilliant research assistant and who helped build the portal, requested that his own memories be erased after what he saw in connection with the portal drove him toward breakdown. He then kept requesting erasures, repeatedly, until the accumulated erasures left him in the fractured and eccentric state the audience has known him in throughout Season 1. The tragedy of McGucket is one of the show's more carefully developed emotional threads. He is introduced as comic relief, a wild-eyed old hermit whose ramblings are treated as the ramblings of a harmless eccentric. The revelation that he was once a capable and innovative engineer, that his current state is not natural but is instead the result of having proximity to something so disturbing that he chose to erase himself rather than live with the knowledge, reframes every previous appearance he has had. The comedy of McGucket is still there, but it is now comedy that sits on top of something genuinely sad. Season 2 handles this with more care than the show is sometimes given credit for. McGucket does not become a tragic figure who stops being funny. He remains funny, but the sadness is also real and is not minimized. The Weirdmageddon arc, which occupies the final 3 episodes of the series, is the payoff for every hidden piece of mythology the show had been building across 40 episodes. Bill Cipher, who has been present in the show since the first episode, as a visual element, and since Dreamscaperers as a character, finally achieves his goal of breaking into the physical world. The town of Gravity Falls becomes the epicenter of his intrusion. The rules of reality bend. Ford, who made a deal with Bill in his youth that he has spent decades trying to undo the consequences of, becomes his captive. The Zodiac, the circle that could theoretically stop Bill if all 10 people held it together, nearly works and then fails when Stan and Ford cannot stop arguing long enough to complete the ritual. The emotional argument underneath Weirdmageddon is the argument the show has been making about Stan and Ford since their backstory was first revealed. Stan spent 30 years rebuilding a machine he did not fully understand. In a room beneath a tourist trap he ran to stay financially afloat, because his brother fell into the portal and he could not leave without saving him. Ford spent 30 years in other dimensions, growing stranger and more isolated and more wounded by the knowledge of what he had helped Bill nearly accomplish. They meet again in Season 2 and immediately start fighting. The 30 years of separation and guilt and grief come out sideways, as anger and blame and the specific cruelty of people who know each other well enough to find the exact words that will land hardest. The Zodiac fails because they cannot stop being brothers long enough to save the world, which is exactly what the show has been saying all along. The thing that nearly dooms them is the same thing that eventually saves them. They are twins, and twins are both a bond and a wound, and you cannot have one without the other. The final episode's cipher, the one decoded using the keyword Axolotl, and the poem it reveals, faded pictures bleached by sun, the tale is told, the summer is done, in memories the pines still play, on a sunny summer's day, is the show at its most explicitly elegiac. It is a poem about the end of the thing. It acknowledges that the summer is over, that the story is told, that what remains is memory. It is the kind of ending that a show committed to a finite run can afford. The acknowledgement that this is a complete thing, rather than a thing that will continue indefinitely. There is grief in it, but there is also the comfort that the completion is real, that this is a story that actually finished. The phrase "in memories the pines still play" is the sentence that lands hardest for me in that final poem. Because the show is not just describing what happens to Dipper and Mabel and Stan and Ford after the summer ends. It is describing what happens to the audience. The Pines family plays on in memories because the people who watch the show carry them there. Dipper and Mabel are still in their first summer in Gravity Falls in the memories of everyone who watched in 2012. That is not lost. It is just where they live now. The complete DVD and Blu-ray release of the series, which came out in the summer of 2018 alongside Lost Legends, contained its own Easter eggs. The Blu-ray includes a brief clip of Bill Cipher speaking backwards. This clip is connected to the Book of Bill ARG that launched in 2024. A secret access through the DVD is one pathway into the web of connections that eventually leads to the website and the puzzle. The fact that a physical media release from 2018 contains a clue that does not fully pay off until a book and ARG published in 2024 suggests that the planning for the Book of Bill ARG extended back at least to the complete series release, 6 years before the book itself arrived. The Shmebu Unlocked Secret, accessible via the DVD Easter egg clip of Bill speaking backwards, connects to a broader web of cross-media content that includes the Book of Bill website. This is characteristic of how Hirsch has handled the Gravity Falls expanded universe. Nothing is strictly siloed. The show connects to the journals. The journals connect to the DVD connects to the website connects to the ARG. The ARG connects back to the show through passwords and keywords drawn directly from episode content. The whole thing is a single interconnected system, and the people willing to follow a thread from one medium to another find that the thread keeps going. The short series Mabel's Guide to Life, which aired between seasons 1 and 2, and focused on Mabel sharing enthusiastic lifestyle advice across a series of 1-minute shorts, is less cryptographically rich than the Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained shorts, but earns its place in the picture for what it does for the character. Mabel's Guide to Life is pure Mabel, which is to say it is maximally warm and maximally chaotic, and completely committed to its own enthusiasm. The shorts do not contain the same hidden message layer as the Dipper shorts. They are character pieces. But they are very good character pieces, and they function as a way of spending time with Mabel during the season gap in a way that deepens the viewer's attachment to her. A character the audience loves more going into Season 2 is a character whose arc in Season 2 lands harder. The Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained shorts, by contrast, are doing double work. They function as comedic mini-episodes featuring Dipper investigating small mysteries around Gravity Falls, and they contain the hidden message system described earlier, the parchment flashes at the end of each short, the two-layer encoding, Ford's hidden confession, "I was so blind, he lied to me, the darkness is near." The contrast between what the shorts look like, short comedy pieces, and what they contain, a crucial piece of character backstory for a character who has not yet been properly introduced, is characteristic of the show's whole approach to hidden content. The surface and the depth are always pulling in different directions. The extended reach of the 618 Easter egg into the show's production infrastructure is significant because the depth of its embedding goes beyond on-screen appearances. The episode production codes for Gravity Falls begin with G618, which means that every episode of the show, in internal production documentation, carries Hirsch's birthday. The merchandise, the books, the supplementary releases, all of them find ways to incorporate the number. When Hirsch talks about the 618 embedding, he describes it as something that started as a private joke and became a compulsion, a creative habit that he maintained across every piece of the franchise because it felt wrong not to. There is something about that compulsion that is telling. The 618 marker is not load-bearing, removing it from any single episode would not change anything, but maintaining it across every episode and every release creates a kind of structural integrity, a consistency that functions as a kind of authorial signature, written into the DNA of the work itself. The show's legacy in animation is specific and identifiable. There are animated series that came after Gravity Falls and that clearly learned from what it did with long-form mystery plotting, with hidden content, with treating the audience as capable of engaging with complex material rather than needing simplification. The combination of genuine emotional sophistication and layers of hidden content aimed at dedicated viewers is not unique to Gravity Falls, but Gravity Falls is among the clearest examples of it working at scale in an American animated series. The creator-driven, finite-run model that Hirsch insisted on, ending the show when the story was done rather than extending it past its natural conclusion, also became a point of reference for subsequent animated series looking to do the same thing. What the show demonstrated, practically, was that hiding things is a viable long-term strategy for building and sustaining audience investment. Not teasing things, not hinting at things, but genuinely hiding things, with real effort put into making the hiding robust, with real attention to the craft of the reveal so that the payoff matches the promise. The McGucket hoax is the most extreme example of that strategy, deploying real disinformation to protect a real secret. But every cipher message in every episode's closing credits is a version of the same commitment. The show was always hiding things because it genuinely believed the things were worth hiding. There is a thread connecting all of this that is worth naming before getting into what remains unanswered. The show's hidden content system is fundamentally organized around the relationship between what people know and what they are not supposed to know. The ciphers exist because Stan is hiding something. The McGucket hoax exists because Hirsch was protecting a secret. Bill's backwards invocation exists because the show wants to establish that certain knowledge is withheld even at the moment of the villain's apparent defeat. The UV content in the Special Edition Journal 3 exists because some information is reserved for the people who have the right tool and know to use it. The ARG passwords exist because some content is reserved for the people who follow the thread all the way to the end. The entire architecture of Gravity Falls' hidden layer is built on the logic of information hierarchy. Who knows what, how they came to know it, and what they owe to the people they have not told yet. This is also what the show is about at its surface level. Stan has been hiding who he is for 30 years. Ford has been hiding what happened with the portal and with Bill. The Society of the Blind Eye has been hiding the town's supernatural history from its own residents. Gideon has been hiding the second journal. The Northwest family has been hiding the origins of their wealth and social position. In Gravity Falls, secrets are load-bearing. They hold up structures that would collapse without them, and the show's cipher system, its background cameos, its book-embedded codes, its ARG, are all extensions of the same thematic logic into the real world. The show about secrets became a secret itself, layered and self-referential, a work of art that performs its own subject matter. That performance is most visible in the Stan and Ford dynamic, which is at its core a story about the cost of keeping secrets between people who love each other. Stan kept the secret of the portal and his twin identity for 30 years. Ford kept the secret of his deal with Bill and its consequences until the situation was past the point where disclosure was easy. Both of them protected secrets out of a combination of shame and love, not wanting to involve the people they cared about in the mess of what they had done, and in both cases, the protection made everything worse. The show does not moralize about this explicitly. It does not deliver a lesson about honesty. It simply demonstrates, through the structure of the plot, what secrets cost over time, and then it gives both characters a chance at something better. The fact that the mechanism of Bill's defeat is a piece of misdirection, Stan and Ford swapping clothes to fool Bill, is not a coincidence. The entire show has been about disguise and misdirection, about people being presented as one thing and being something else. Stan is not Stanford. The Mystery Shack is not just a tourist trap. McGucket is not just a hermit. Bill is not just a dream demon making manageable deals. The finale resolves the show's central mystery by using that same logic of disguise and misdirection as the saving move. The moment when the human capacity for deception, for hiding and substituting and pretending to be what you are not, is turned against the being that has been exploiting it all along. The twins who spent 2 seasons asking who people really are, finally win by becoming indistinguishable from each other. It is the exact right ending for what this show was about. The finale also uses the memory erasure, the same mechanism the Society of the Blind Eye used against McGucket and against the town, as the means of Bill's defeat. The gun that erased people's knowledge of Gravity Falls' supernatural secrets erases Stan's mind to destroy Bill. The instrument of cover-up becomes the instrument of salvation. Every thematic element the show built over 2 seasons comes to the finale with a specific structural role to play. It is a tightly engineered conclusion, and the engineering is visible but does not feel cold, because the emotional stakes are genuine. Stan loses everything to save his brother. That is not a structural choice dressed up as emotion. It is the show's central emotional claim that the love between estranged brothers is real and total and worth everything, delivered as action in the last 20 minutes of the series. The audience that came to this finale had been doing their own version of the same work for 4 years. They had been holding pieces of information, comparing notes, losing sleep over theories, being deliberately misled by the creator through a fake photograph on an image board, finding encoded messages in credit sequences, and background props and short film parchment flashes. They had been participants in the show's hidden content system in a way that most television audiences are not participants in anything. When the finale arrived, it was not just a payoff for the characters. It was a payoff for the audience as a parallel investigative community, one that had been doing their own version of what Dipper and Mabel and Stan and Ford had been doing inside the show, looking for the truth underneath the visible surface, refusing to accept the simple explanation, following threads wherever they went. This is what the show built. Not just a story, though the story is very good. Not just a cipher system, though the cipher system is ingeniously designed. Not just an ARG, though the ARG was one of the most ambitious fan engagement projects any animated series has ever produced. It built a community of people who know how to look for things that are hidden, who have been trained by a specific animated series to treat surface appearances with skepticism and hidden layers with the kind of attention and care they deserve. That community is still out there. They are still checking the backgrounds of Gravity Falls frames for things they missed. They are still running ARG passwords through the Book of Bill website. They are still looking. What remains genuinely unsolved, what Hirsch himself has left open, is worth naming clearly before we close. Journal 3 contains codes that, as of the book's publication and by Hirsch's own account, no one has publicly solved. The exact content and nature of those codes is unknown, which means there are physical copies of a published book on shelves around the world with secrets inside them that have not been extracted. This is a remarkable thing to be able to say about a book published in 2016. A decade on, the special edition, with its UV visible content, sits in the hands of the 10,000 people who own it, and some of what it contains has not been shared publicly or decoded. Hirsch made this statement himself, that there are codes in Journal 3 he has not seen anyone solve yet, and that statement carries a particular weight. He knows what the codes say. He put them there. He is watching, from the outside, for someone to find them. They have not yet been found. The Axolotl, the extra-dimensional creature Bill invoked as he was destroyed, has been referenced in the Book of Bill and its ARG, but has not been given a full canonical explanation. Its role in the mythology, whether Bill can use it to return, what its full relationship to Bill's history actually is, all of that remains open. The backwards invocation at the end of the series finale was deliberate and confirmed. The Axolotl keyword appears in the same episode, in the cipher on the bus seat, connecting the spoken invocation to the encoded text. The being is real within the show's mythology. What it will do, if anything, has not been answered. Given that the Book of Bill was published in 2024 and chose to reference the axolotl without resolving it, the question seems likely to remain open unless a future project addresses it directly. The fourth journal fans identified on Schmabelach's bookshelf in Lost Legends has never been officially addressed. Journals 1, 2, and 3 are accounted for in the show's canon. Journal 3 ends with the summer. No journal has been described as a fourth volume, yet there it sits, on a shelf in a published graphic novel, waiting. Fan theories about its authorship and contents have circulated since Lost Legends was published in 2018. Hirsch has not commented on it. Whether it was a planned story point, a deliberate tease for future content, or a background detail that has accumulated significance through fan attention is something only Hirsch knows. The new cipher systems from the Book of Bill are the newest piece of the puzzle, introduced in 2024 and still being worked through by the community. They are associated with Bill's home dimension and with his current location after the events of the finale, which implies that there is something to find. A specific answer about where Bill is or what state he is in. The ARG community has made progress. Whether the systems have been fully solved and the solution shared widely, or whether they remain another thread in the system waiting to be pulled, is something the community is better positioned to answer than this script. What matters is that the Book of Bill, 8 years after the series finale, introduced new cipher systems and left them for the audience to work through. The game is still going. An art book has been discussed for future release, which is another unknown. Books like this sometimes contain significant new reveals, production material that has never been published, creator commentary that confirms or expands on things that were previously only fan theory. Given the show's history of using every format as an opportunity to embed hidden content, it would be surprising if the art book contained nothing of cryptographic interest, but what it actually contains will not be known until it is published. The revival question hangs over all of this. If Gravity Falls returns in any form, the unsolved codes and the open threads and the deliberately unexplained objects on Schmabelach's shelves become more significant. They could be the groundwork for a new story rather than permanent mysteries. If Gravity Falls does not return, they remain what they are now. Questions the creator chose not to answer, gaps he found more interesting open than closed. Hirsch has been consistent about his view that unresolved threads have value precisely because they give him a window back into the world if he ever wants to use it. The open questions are not failures, they are invitations. What makes Gravity Falls unusual, maybe unique in the history of American animated television, is that the show itself ended, closed, said goodbye, played Goodbye Gravity Falls in reversed audio over the final credits, and then kept going. Not as a production, not with new episodes, but as a system of secrets. The books kept coming. The ARGs kept running. New codes appeared in new places. The ciphers that were embedded in the show's DNA in 2012 are still being extended, still being added to, still being found and solved, more than a decade after the premiere. A show about the mystery of a single summer has become a mystery that outlasts any single summer by a factor of 10. What I keep coming back to, and what I think gets undersold when people talk about the show's craftsmanship, is how early all of this was committed to. Hirsch was embedding Stan's real name in a license plate in Episode 2. He was hiding Ford's six-fingered hand on journal covers in Episode 1. He was putting the answer to the show's central mystery in the theme song from the pilot. He was encoding a poem in the closing credits of every episode, cycling through 4 different cipher systems across 2 seasons, leaving Vigenere keywords hidden in backgrounds for dedicated viewers to find. He was building a physical statue designed to grow moss over time and burying it in the Oregon wilderness to be found at the end of a global scavenger hunt. The commitment to the hidden layer preceded the execution of everything visible above it. The secrets were not an afterthought layered onto a finished show. They were foundational, baked in at the origin, built into the architecture of a story that looked from the outside like a cheerful Disney cartoon about 2 kids and a mystery tourist trap in a small town. Gravity Falls ran for 2 seasons, 40 episodes, a premiere on June 15, 2012, and a finale on February 15, 2016. 2 summers in Gravity Falls, Oregon, which the show always understood as the kind of summer that cannot be repeated, that exists in a specific window of childhood, before the world becomes something more complicated and less magical. Dipper and Mabel Pines did not stay 12 years old forever. They went home. The Mystery Shack got back its sign and its con artist and its casual supernatural weirdness. And the show's creator embedded clues about a twin in episode 2 and waited 2 years for the audience to find them. That patience is the part that deserves the most appreciation. Not the scale of the ARGs or the complexity of the Vigenere cipher, or even the audacity of going onto an image board to feed your own fandom deliberate disinformation to protect a plot twist. It is the patience of it. The willingness to plant something in the ground in 2012 and trust that the audience would still be looking in 2014. The willingness to end the show and keep adding secrets to books and physical objects and websites for years afterwards. The willingness to leave threads genuinely open. The Axolotl, the fourth journal, the unsolved codes in Journal 3. Because some mysteries are better for not being fully resolved. Hirsch has said he likes stories that complete their emotional arcs while leaving lingering threads to chew on. He has been true to that in every format the franchise has touched. The show that began as a man from California, drawing on summers he spent with his twin sister in the woods, trying to make something true about what childhood mystery feels like, ended up becoming a mystery that is still running. And somewhere in the background of the very first episode, if you know where to look, a time traveler in a camouflage jumpsuit is picking something up from the ground, cleaning up after an adventure that has not happened yet, in a show that has never quite finished happening. The codes are still in the credits, the keys are still in the episodes, the statue is still at Confusion Hill, moss growing slowly on plexiglass, seeds becoming something that looks like it was always there. The summer is still going, and some